still not on. There we are. I am on. Good morning. Morning, morning, morning. Hopefully a good one. All right. Okay, we're all the way into 42. Chapter 42. I think there's 66 chapters in Isaiah. So we're about 2/3 done. That's pretty good, because that's a big book. So, God's promise of his servant. So that kind of frames the first part of chapter 42. So a lot of interesting things. 42 and 43 is where I might cover today. Depends on whether I get stuck on one, and I think I'm going to get stuck on one real fast. But it's kind of interesting, the fact that it goes into the future, the promise of the servant, then it goes into the past, taken into captivity, then it takes being freed from captivity, then it talks about the destruction of Babylon. So it jumps all over the place. So I'll try and keep everybody on the same page as far as where we are from a time hack and what I've interpreted from. So, behold, my servant, whom I uphold or hold fast. What I did parenthetically is it has what the original Greek or what the Hebrew word that was there in the version that I'm looking at. So that's what's put there, is to say uphold, hold fast, whatever it is next to it. So, my chosen one in whom my soul delights. I have put my spirit upon him. He will bring forth justice to the nations, parenthetically, Gentiles. He will not cry out or raise his voice, nor make his voice heard in the street. A bruised reed he will not break, and a dimly burning wick he will not extinguish. He will faithfully bring forth justice. He will not be disheartened or crushed until he's established justice in the earth, and the coastlands will wait expectantly for his law / instruction. So who's the chosen one the Father put his Spirit in? This is easy. It's Jesus, yeah. And let's see. To whom and how does he bring justice? Let's take to whom. Let's take to whom. Whom does he bring justice to? Huh? The world. Yeah, everybody. Okay. How does he do that? He conquered sin. He offered himself up and took our sin with him, right? Perfect sacrifice. And a paradox. Took all the sins of the world, but he never committed one himself. That's paradox. Which is not two doctors. Okay. How will he not bring justice? What won't he do? How's he not going to go about it? Verse 2. He won't cry out. Yeah. What did Jonah do when he went to Nineveh? He cried out in the streets and everything like that, okay? So he's not going to do it like the prophets did it in the past, because they just told them what was wrong, what they needed to do that was right. His way of bringing justice is going to be a whole different way of bringing justice than the prophets in the past. What won't dissuade him? Nothing will. Nothing will dissuade him. He's got a purpose for being here, and nothing will dissuade him. Okay, he's not going to be disheartened or anything like that. Now, you could say in the garden, he says, I want this cup to pass from me, which is in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. But if you look in John, the whole thing in John is the prayer to God about keeping unity of the disciples and to keep them and to send the Spirit and like that. So nothing dissuaded him. How about this one? Where do you think this is referenced in the New Testament? What kind of books? Which of the books of the New Testament? It could be. It could be in Corinthians where Paul talks about it. But of the Gospels, if it's the Gospels, with what we know about the Gospels, who is Matthew writing to? Who? The Jews, yeah. And who was Mark writing to? The Roman of mind. Okay, a lot of miracles are in Mark. How about Luke? Luke was writing to the Gentile mind. You notice in the beginning of Luke, it gives the lineage of Mary, because that's what made sense. Not, as Matthew did it, the lineage of Joseph. And then John spoke to what motivated Christ, more about who he was. It's not terribly chronological, okay? So based on that, and since this is Isaiah, which is the Old Testament, of those four, which one do you think it would have fallen in? Who would the Jews have been looking for satisfaction of what was prophecy in the Old Testament? Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John? Matthew wrote to the Jews. It would be Matthew. So, in Matthew, chapter 12, departing from there, he went into the synagogue. And a man was there, and notice he's in the synagogue. He's not out in the street. And a man was there whose hand was withered. And they questioned Jesus, asking, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath? So that they may accuse him. And he said to them, what man is there among you, will be from you, who has a sheep, and if it falls in a pit on the Sabbath, he will not take hold of it and lift it out? How much more valuable then is man than a sheep? So then it is lawful to do good, or well, on the Sabbath. Then he said to the man, stretch out your hand. He stretched it out, and it was restored as normal, healthy, like the other. But the Pharisees went out and conspired, took counsel against him as to how they might destroy him. So where does Jesus provide this instruction? Where does he talk about this? It's in the synagogue. Okay, it's there where they're studying the word, which could be Isaiah that day. What point is Jesus making in this passage? When it's convenient, they use it against him. The whole point behind God is compassion and patience and loving. And they've lost the point. He said, you'll do this for sheep. Why? Because it's money. You don't have any compassion for the sheep. It's money. But this man here, you don't care about him because he doesn't put any money in your pocket. You missed the point. Okay. So, how did those who were supposed to be leading the people respond to God?
They're condemning Christ because they had made their laws with, 100 or more ways where they would describe working on the Sabbath. So they would consider this a work.
Yeah, you had the Mishnah and the Gemara that went in. It was an explanation of the law and then an explanation of the explanation. And that's where they made up all those, like when they went and picking probably wheat in the field, and they were just rubbing it in their hands, and you blow on it, it gets rid of the chaff, and you can eat the wheat. They said, you're working on the Sabbath. Like, no, I'm not. All the things they accused them of breaking of the law weren't in the law. None of it was in the law. It was in their interpretation. So, but Jesus, aware, knowing this, withdrew from there. Many followed him, and he healed them all and warned them not to tell them who he was, make him known. This is to fulfill what was spoken through Isaiah the prophet. Behold my servant, in whom I have chosen, my beloved, in whom my soul is pleased, took pleasure. I put my spirit upon him, and he shall proclaim justice or judgment to the Gentiles, the nations. He will not quarrel, nor cry out, nor will anyone hear his voice in the streets. A battered reed he will not break off, and a smoldering wick he will not put out, until he puts forth justice, judgment to victory. What was Jesus aware of? He knew what was in the hearts of the leadership, okay? And he knew where that was going to end up. Okay. How does this match up with what we just read in Isaiah 42? It is Isaiah 42. Okay, that first part we read, that's what this is. This is what Matthew writes, is to say, hey, if you missed it, who Isaiah was talking about, he even wrote it into his gospel to say, this is him. Okay, what does it mean? He will not break off. Actually, I left that part out. He will not, a battered reed he will not break off, and a smoldering wick he will not put out. What does that mean? Okay, what's a reed? Cattail, yeah. Long, skinny thing, okay? And a smoldering wick. It's a lamp. But the oil's about to run out. If it's a lamp, if it's a candle, it's about to burn out because either you've got it in something and the wax is about to swallow up the thing or whatever it is. But it's just about done, okay? But what does that mean? What does it mean? Okay, I understand what does it mean? What does it represent? I looked at several commentaries, and they seem to be in alignment, which kind of surprises me when you look at several of those commentaries. I had an initial thought. My first thought went to the verse where it says, he'll satisfy every jot and tittle in the King James, or every dot over every I and every T is crossed. And I went, well, maybe, maybe not. And then I looked at the commentaries, and they had a little bit different slant on it as far as what it meant about the reed. Let's talk about the reed. This one here is a battered reed. What is a battered reed? You know what a reed is? What's a battered reed? When it's been hit, okay? It's that integrity of that reed has somehow been compromised, and it's crooked or something like that, okay? Is it healthy? I can get into turgor or pressure, but what brings up nutrients and fluid is based on a rigid structure, and when it's compromised and like that, it's not going to do that very well, at least past the break, okay, or whatever the compromise is. So what are the people like that are trying to follow Christ? The people that put down their coats and put down palms when he came in, the people that are here, okay, that are suffering physically or financially. What are they like? What have the Pharisees, with their interpretation and the interpretation of law, done to the people? What made Christ so mad when he got to the temple that he threw the tables over and chased them out with a whip?
Reference to him.
They were thieves. They were robbing the people of what they had. They weren't taking care of the widows. They weren't taking care of the orphans. They were basically a pariah on the Jews, the Jewish leadership. They were preying on them, okay? So the people weren't finding the way to God. They were bruised. They were weakened. So he's not going to destroy them the rest of the way. He's going to build them back up. What about the other? A smoldering wick. Think about it spiritually. That light, that desire that burns inside you to follow God, and God is for you. How did those people feel when they said, I don't have the money to make my sacrifice? And they turned them away. I go to the synagogue and a guy reads something and he has no idea what he's talking about. How are they doing spiritually? Yeah, that wick is about to go out. And he's not going to snuff out that wick. He's going to build the people back up, and he's going to build them up spiritually. And the Father's going to do a big part of that, because what's he going to do? Christ justified who being put on us? The Spirit. What's that going to do for that smoldering wick? Burn bright. Okay. So that's what I saw in most of the interpretations was, okay, he's not going to make people worse than they are. He's going to build them up because they're all valuable. He's going to die for the least. That's how valuable you are, as opposed to a society that they're living in, that they're valueless. And he's going to build them up spiritually. And that is going to bring victory over sin. So that's kind of what Isaiah was talking about there. It's just, I looked at one commentary and it went from verse 1 to verse 4. It didn't do 3. It just kind of drove me crazy. So, but it was interesting when you kind of take it apart and like that, is most of this you can look at it and you go, I got it. But that one right there, I didn't get. I had to look around, get some better understanding. So, then and then this part here. Remember the part here in, right, my beloved, whom my soul is well pleased, I will put my spirit upon him. Where I looked at that was here in Matthew. This is when he put his spirit in him, was when he was baptized by John. Where John says, I need to be baptized by you. And he says, I need to fulfill everything. You need to baptize me. And then God put his spirit in his son. That's kind of what I was going to cover here. I knew it was going to take a while for that. Okay. Which is good. Doug will have more to work with next week. Thus say God the Lord, who created the heavens and stretched them out, who spread out the earth and its offspring, vegetation, which is an interesting interpretation, who gives breath to the people on it and spirit to those who walk in it. I am the Lord. I have called you in righteousness. I will also hold you by the hand and watch over you, and I will appoint you as a covenant to the people, as a light to the nations. What does God promise? He kind of says who God is. Basically, he made everything. And I am the Lord. I have called you in righteousness. Who did he call? can say, yeah, it was the next verse because I didn't make it a small one, and they tended to make all those capitals when I put it together. You know, the original Septuagint did not have it. Yeah, that was the Greek version, right? Septuagint. Yeah, didn't have any punctuation at all. It was what they did when they broke it all up. And so when they wrote it up in there and they broke it up into poetry and everything like that, they did that. I think this is us. I will hold you by the hand and watch over you. I appoint you as a covenant to the people, as a light to the nations. So if it's us, we're the light to the nations. If it's Christ, he's the light to everybody. You can interpret it either way. I think that's where you were going, Doug, isn't it? Yeah. Which would be an extension of that one. So could it mean both? Could. I don't like to make interpretations of prophecy to say it means two different things in the same thing. But to open blind eyes, to bring prisoners from the dungeon and those who dwell in the darkness from prison. I am the Lord, that is my name. I will not give my glory to another, nor my praise to graven images, idols. Behold, the former things have come to pass. Now I declare new things before they spring forth. I proclaim them to you. So remember the context that we were in the first part of this chapter, because we're still in chapter 42, is Matthew pulled that up to justify from this first part of the chapter that it's talking about Christ, which would make sense on that last part there that it's more about Christ than it is about us. But this tends to go a little bit beyond this here in this particular verse, because what it's really talking about. Where's my first one? How will we open up blind eyes? If it's us, how do we open it up? Blind eyes. And how did he open up blind eyes?
Physically, he opened them up with his hands, spit in the dirt.
Physically, yeah. Spiritually, by what he did. Did he ever do anything mean? He was frustrated and angry when he turned over the tables, but he made his father's house into a thieves' den. Okay. But did he ever ask anything for what he did? I mean, the Pharisees would have had their hand out. Okay, I healed you. Now, pay up. Okay, it would have been a financial transaction. But he opened up blind eyes by what he did. We open up blind eyes by what we do. Things like where he said, don't return evil for evil, return good for evil. Okay, when he said, where he talked about it, he says, okay, if you're compelled for a mile to carry a Roman soldier's pack, which they hated the Roman soldiers, go for 2. That's opening up blind eyes. People don't expect you to be that gracious, that compassionate. That opens up blind eyes. Dungeons. What are the dungeons that he's referring to? Think about it spiritually. I mean, we're supposed to talk to people in the prison, but and those who dwell in darkness from the prison, what is
They're
that?
condemned by their own actions. And
The people who have broken, have sinned against God, and they're stuck. They don't know how to get out of it. And so opening of blind eyes to say, there's a way out. I can show you the way out of your prison. Your prison is of your making. But Jesus can get you out of that prison because of what he did. Let me show you how. What are the new things being declared? In Verse 9, behold, the former things have come to pass. I now declare new things.
The old law is gone and there's a new law.
There's a new law. The basis of our salvation, has that changed for the old or the new? It's our faith, isn't it? Faith in God is what salvation comes from. That's what, I mean, we're justified by our faith. That's, I don't know how many times Paul says that, but he says it a whole bunch, okay? That hasn't changed. But it's not about rules. It's about faith. It's about your heart. And because that gives you hope, which is what Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians 13. It's about how you get there, and it's not because you earn it. It's a gift. Because you can't earn it. None of us can earn it. So that's the new things is the Pharisees, what were the Pharisees teaching? And the Sadducees, and the scribes. You can earn it. If you do all these things right, you earn it. Were they right? No. You can never earn it because of that. It had to be because of faith. So it may be new things to them, but it was always what God wanted. But they got so far away from it. Sing to the Lord, still in 42. Sing to the Lord a new song. Sing his praise from the end of the earth. You who go down to the sea and all that is in it, you islands and those who dwell in them. Let the wilderness and the cities lift up their voices, the settlements where Kedar inhabits. Let the inhabitants of Selah sing out. Let them shout for joy from the tops of the mountains. Let them give glory to the Lord and declare his praise in the crosslands. The Lord will go forth like a warrior. He will arouse his zeal like a man of war. He will utter a shout. Yes, he will raise a war cry. He will prevail against his enemies. So what's the new song? And how does it extend to the end of the earth? They're tied together. The Jews said they were God's anointed people. He chose them. And he did choose them. Did he choose them forever? No. Did he choose them only? When Christ talks about it, and I don't know why the disciples never asked him any questions, but when he was talking about his sheep, he says, I have other sheep and I'm going to bring them into the fold. We know that's the Gentiles. The new song here, and it's a new song to the Jews, is to say, this is open to everybody, including the Gentiles. Those people you call dogs, and dogs weren't happy tail wagging dogs then. They were kind of vicious animals. But those people, it's open to them. And because of that, it extends to the end of the earth. Everybody now. The kingdom's open to everyone, is what he's trying to say. Against whom is God raising up a war cry? Don't overthink this one. Who's fighting against God all the time? Satan. Okay, it's like I said, don't overthink it. Satan and his followers, his angels that are with him, the demons, they're all against him. Okay, he's now going to go to war with them. And it talks about that war, certainly in Revelation. But he's going to win it. Okay? He's allowed Satan to do lots of things on the earth up until the time Christ comes. And when Christ rises, what happens? What happens to Satan when Christ rises? He's defeated. He's chained. He's limited. Not that he doesn't have any effect. He's still got effect. He just doesn't have all the power he had before Christ arose. So that's the war cry. He's waited until the right time. And if you look at that first part of the verse we talked about, the bruised reed and about the wick that's about to go out, when was Christ supposed to come? At just the right time. Okay? He waited for the war to start at that just the right time to show the power of God. How many times has God shown, okay, it looks pretty bad. We just studied this. Sennacherib brought thousands outside of Jerusalem. Okay? It looked pretty dim for the people in Jerusalem. He just had crushed all the different cities in Judah. He was about to crush Jerusalem. And that night, the Lord killed them all. Sent Sennacherib packing. Okay? He waits until the point, he doesn't wait to the point all the time to say, okay, I want to avoid this. It's when you're in it, is when he comes in and says, okay, I'm going to make it work out. So, the blindness of the people, last part of 42. I have kept silent for a long time. I have kept still and restrained myself. Now like a woman in labor, I will groan, I will gasp and pant. I will lay waste the mountains and the hills and wither the vegetation. I will make the rivers and coastlands and dry up the ponds. I will lead the blind by a way they do not know, and paths they do not know. I will guide them. I will make darkness into light before them and rugged places into plains. These are the things I will do, and I will not leave them undone. They will be turned back and will be utterly put to shame. Who trusts in idols, graven images? Who say to molten images, you are our gods? So what's God finally going to allow to happen? In verse 17 kind of gives you an indication of what that is. Yeah, there's going to be a judgment against the Jews, the people that are using idols, graven images, who trust in those graven images. What was the common trust? One of the trusts was your crops. Okay, one of the trusts you had in graven images was fertility, but one of the trusts, the big trust that you had in graven images, was to protect you against your enemies. And he says, okay. You want to count on those gods? I'm going to show you what it's like. And it didn't happen underneath Hezekiah, because Hezekiah eliminated it all. But his son brought back idols, Manasseh. And so Judah kind of goes back and forth a couple of times. Hear, you deaf, and look, you blind, that you may see. Who is blind but my servant? Or who is deaf as my messenger whom I send? And who is blind as he that is at peace with me? Or so blind as the servant of the Lord? You have seen many things, but you did not observe them. Your ears are open, but none hear. The Lord will please for his righteousness' sake, to make the law great and glorious. But this is a people plundered and despoiled, all of them trapped in caves or hidden away in prisons. They have become a prey with none to deliver them, and a spoil with none to say, give them back. What have the Israelites become deaf and blind to? What will they become deaf and blind to?
When he came, they should have already known that.
That's true. They did. But this one is what's happening in Judah? What did Manasseh do? He brought in idols in a big way. They trusted in the idols. They started trusting in treaties. Negotiated okay, mutual destruction. Okay, if somebody attacks you, then I'll help you. And if somebody attacks me, you'll help them. And they got into this dependency relationship with other kingdoms and with idols, and got away with a relationship with God. Remember, Jerusalem was spared because they depended on God. It got really bad. Hezekiah was, he was in sackcloth and ashes and praying to God and everything like that, and God delivered them because they depended on God. They didn't depend on another Egyptian army to come in there or anything like that to get rid of the Assyrians. They depended on God. God's law is great and glorious. What have the people made it? They've hid it. They're not teaching it anymore. Or if they are, it's just something that some do. There's a remnant still left that's probably trying to study it. But by and large, basically they've just set it aside. We've got something better.
Yeah, when they come out of captivity and they read it, they find it and they read it. And to their surprise,
we didn't know all this.
Yes, right.
So, who plundered and despoiled the people? What do the caves represent? I think I'll have all of 43 for you. Who plundered and despoiled the people? Finally. Wasn't Sennacherib. Wasn't the Assyrians. Or Chaldeans. They got another name. They were from Babylon. The Babylonians. Eventually, they were the ones who would plunder Jerusalem. And they despoiled the people. What do the caves represent? They go there as, hey, we're going to raise you up and let you do all kinds of things in our society. They're slaves. They were basically imprisoned as servants to the Babylonians at their whim. Here we have in 2 Kings, this is what's going on just before they're taken and despoiled and plundered. Pharaoh Necho make Eliakim, the son of Josiah, king in place of Josiah his father, and changed his name to Jehoiakim. But he took Jehoahaz away and brought him to Egypt, and he died there. So Jehoiakim gave the silver and gold to Pharaoh, but he taxed the land in order to give the money at the command, the mouth of Pharaoh. He exacted the silver and gold from the people of the land, each according to his valuation, to give it to Pharaoh Necho. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Zebidah, the daughter of Pedaiah of Rumah. He did evil in the sight of the Lord according to all his fathers had done. So this is going back to several of the kings that they did, and they did evil. Okay, so who instilled the last king of the Jews prior to the Babylonian captivity? The Egyptian king, Necho. He says, well, I don't like him. He had two brothers, right? Josiah probably had more than two, but the two brothers. He didn't like the one brother. He took him out, took him to Egypt, held him there, and he put the other brother in, probably because the other brother was more pliable. So what kind of a king was Jehoiakim? From God's perspective, a rotten king. What kind of a king was Josiah? He's a godly king. It's interesting that Josiah would be someone who was following God and trying to follow God, and he had rotten kids. And you look at Hezekiah, was trying to follow God, and he had a rotten kid, Manasseh. Chronicles kind of has the same thing, but then the people of the land took Jehoahaz, short form of Jehoahaz, the son of Josiah, and made him king in the place of his father Jerusalem. So the reason that you can figure out when you look at Kings, you don't get the reason, but when you read Chronicles, the reason he pulled him out is because I didn't put Jehoahaz in as king. The people did. And I don't like that. I'm going to put who my guy is, and that's why he took Jehoahaz out. Jehoahaz was, and made him king, and made him king in place of his father in Jerusalem. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he became, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. Didn't last very long. Then the king of Egypt deposed him at Jerusalem and imposed the land a fine of 100 talents of silver and 1 talent of gold. The king of Egypt made Eliakim, his brother, Jehoahaz, king over Jerusalem and changed his name to Jehoiakim. So he got really into the weeds of what they're doing there. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he became king and reigned 11 years in Jerusalem, and he did evil in the light inside of the Lord. Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up against him, bound him with bronze chains to take him to Babylon. So what happened to the people in Jerusalem and the surrounding area of Judah? Almost all of them, except those they considered to be useless, became slaves. They served in the palace, which is, you read about that one, it's the book of Daniel. But they served throughout the kingdom. And you'll see they did get dispersed throughout the kingdom when Doug talks about it, when he talks about the reference to Ezra next week. Thank you.